Good evening. It's the last thing Victoria needed, already in the grip of a pandemic and protests, now cleaning up after an earthquake that sent shockwaves across the state. The powerful quake measured 5.9 on the Richter scale, leaving widespread damage and forcing buildings to be evacuated across the city. Experts say we'll be experiencing aftershocks for months.
In a state already shaken by the pandemic and protests, no one could even imagine this would happen.
The building shaking like nothing, and I screamed. I thought it was a truck initially going by, but oh my God, I've never felt so scared in my life.
At 9:15 this morning, felt from the city to Wodonga.
Please help me.
From Crib Point.
Come away from the window. Layla, get away from your window.
To Kilsyth.
Oh my God.
To Dallas. Terrifying people right around Victoria.
I don't know what's happening. Come here, come out. Out.
Geoscience Australia says there were reports the quake was felt as far away as the north of Western Australia and northern Queensland. Here, thousands fled from buildings.
The thing started shaking, and it's like the ground underneath me was like 2, and I started freaking out. So I just ran out of there as soon as I could.
I saw my bed was shaking and I was scared.
Protests, riots and earthquakes, what's next?
The worst damage in Chapel Street, Paran. Thousands of bricks collapsed from the top of Betty's Burgers.
Oh my God.
Dust and debris left locals in shock. Miraculously, no one was hurt.
Look, the main thing for us was that none of our team were hurt. So I think that was the main message, that we wanted to get around, make sure no one was inside.
Also damaged, Port Melbourne Bunnings.
The roof tiles had fallen in. They've fallen down and smashed my back windscreen.
And a chimney which collapsed in Armidale. There were 108 SES call-outs for damage. 35,000 households lost power. The quake originally registered a magnitude of 5.8, upgraded later to 5.9.
So that is the largest onshore earthquake we've had in Victoria in recorded history. So it's very significant.
These are the readings from the closest seismographs. Off the chart. The epicentre 10 kilometres underground in the high country near Licola, the closest major town, Mansfield. In what's known as the Governor Fault in the Great Dividing Range. We were very lucky the epicentre was more than 100 kilometres from Melbourne.
If this earthquake was very close to Melbourne, it would be quite devastating.
So we would have expected a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
Terrible.
In fact, it was more powerful than the destructive Newcastle quake of 1989, which left 13 people dead and 160 injured. That was magnitude 5.6. Today, there were at least 6 aftershocks.
At 9:30, there was a magnitude 4, and just before 10 o'clock, there was a magnitude 3.1 as well.
We can expect dozens more over the next few months.
The earthquakes tend to get smaller and less frequent over time, but we certainly can't rule out another large earthquake occurring within that sequence.
Today's quake interrupted everything from breakfast television.
Is it an earthquake or a structural thing?
I don't know, but...
I don't know.
Let's go.
No, it really was...
Yeah, that was a big one.
To Lego games.
Yeah, she's all right?
The house is shaking. What was that?
to racing radio.
And we are going through, I reckon, an earthquake here or something on air. Our building is literally shaking. Matt, this is frightening, to be honest, because it's lasting a long time, but it's $6.50 at the moment. Got to dance a lot.
Few in our city were left untouched. This, a church service in Dandenong.
Wow, how is that? We've just had an earth tremor here.
Right throughout the city of Melbourne, there were groups of people like these, evacuated from high-rise buildings, standing on the footpaths and in parks, stunned. They were struggling to come to terms with what had happened.
I was just absolutely terrified. I had no idea what was happening. It was really scary, yeah. It was really only a couple of seconds, but it shocked everyone in the building. Everyone went onto the balconies and asking each other, did you feel that? Is everyone okay?
I think there's an earthquake.
Exhausted Melburnians left wondering what else can be thrown at them.
It kind of feels a bit apocalyptic at the moment. We're all had enough, I think. We need a break.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
The earthquake's epicentre was in the heart of Victoria's high country. Sonia Marinelli has the latest from Mansfield. And Sonia, an incredibly close call for locals.
Yes, Mitch, but remarkably, towns surrounding the epicentre emerged this morning relatively unscathed, despite the violent tremor shaking homes and buildings right across the northeast. There was no major damage and fortunately no serious injuries reported. And even though the powerful quake measured 5.9 in magnitude, according to the latest info from the SES, there were 136 calls for assistance across the entire state. The slopes at Mount Buller rumble.
It certainly added a little bit of unexpected spice to the morning, and we definitely felt it really strongly right across the whole resort.
More frightening for skiers high in the air.
Some people, of course, were on chairlifts. Thankfully, we have those stop really quickly and everyone was completely safe and sound.
From across the state's northeast, the SES was swamped.
We've had over 26,000 felt reports into the services this morning.
But remarkably, very few calls for assistance. In Wangaratta, a mum rushes to comfort her toddler. Well, St Patrick's Church has stood since 1963, but today's quake will force some running repairs. In Mansfield, Jodie Beadle-Penny was prepping for lunch at the commercial hotel when the century-old building violently shook.
I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen, had a huge knife in my hand, and I thought, this is a bit weird, it's shaking. And then the plate started shaking on the bench. The whole bench started to shake, and I thought, there's something wrong with me.
The chef suspected paranormal activity.
There is a legend, apparently there's a ghost that lives here, so I thought maybe it was him.
But there was little damage to the town, just a few shaken residents.
I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and the kids came in too and sort of said, what's going on?
Strong enough that things started falling off the shelves, and yeah, like the windows were sort of starting to buckle in and bow and everything. Yeah, it was quite scary.
At Beechworth, the local hospital lost power, but backup generators quickly kicked in. And at Borrolite, veteran sports announcer Craig Willis was in his kitchen.
Now, at first just thought it was a truck, and then all of a sudden it really started to shake the house.
The effects were even felt in Washington.
I was very sorry to hear you had an earthquake. In Mansfield.
That's right, in Victoria.
Which I know well.
Boris Johnson was once a teacher at Timbertop near Mansfield. While back in the tiny town of Lacola, closest to the epicentre, they're cleaning up.
Windows in the cottage broke and everything fell out of the cupboards and the fridge opened and there's a great big mess.
In Mansfield, Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
The quake was felt in every corner of the state. Mike Amor, there were scenes of shock and disbelief everywhere.
Yeah, Mitch, from here on Chapel Street to the border and the Dandenongs, it was all captured on security cameras and mobile phones as the earth shook without warning. Jackie Felgate compiled this story.
When it hit, there was very little doubt what it was.
Come here, come out! Out!
Breakfast announcers were on air when their building shook at Nova.
Can you feel that as well?
Yeah, I can feel it.
Well, our
Oh my God.
jeez.
What is this?
Is this a genuine earthquake?
And at SEM.
There also comes a time, and I think this is what's happening now, that final piece of the puzzle.
Did we just get hit by an earthquake?
Every suburb of Melbourne felt the quake. Parents ran to babies in their cots as windows rattled and the earth shook. From Kilsyth to Hawthorne, Officer, and in home offices across the state.
Oh my God, babe.
Melburnians fled their home.
Shaking.
Podcasters too captured the moment.
The whole house is shaking.
The roar was like a jet engine. School holiday fun suddenly a little more serious.
Kids, you alright?
The house is shaking.
As families felt the quake.
Please help me.
Meditation sessions weren't so calming. Netballer Stacey Gannon's workout took a turn. Melbourne Dogs knew what was coming. And even the Collins Street Falcon left its nest for a peek. With 3 months left in 2021, Victorians are left wondering what's next. Jacqueline Felgate, 7 News.